So, let us turn in our Bibles to Revelation chapter 11. I think we're going to make it to the two witnesses today, which will be cool. Ah, my bookmark's missing. Now I'll never find Revelation. It's a little bit before the concordance, in case you get lost. All right, page 1087 for all of you who, didn't know what page it was on. Oh, there's some other cool stuff coming up I forgot about. So Revelation chapter 11, verse dos. It says, "But leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles, and they will tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months." Oh, I don't know if we're going to get very far. Let's find out. So, good morning, Mike and Dad, and everyone else who's going to be coming in very shortly, I'm sure. So, the outer court of the temple. It says, do not measure. Now, remember, yesterday in verse 1, it says he was given a reed like a measuring rod, and it says, measure the temple, the altar, and the worshipers. And we talked a lot about measuring worshipers. But now we've got this idea of measuring the temple, but leaving out the court, which is outside the temple. And again, because it's been given to the Gentiles. So here is where it talks about the third temple, and the location of the third temple could be quite fascinating. What would I give for a good map right now? I don't know, was this guy? Ooh. Let's see what I have in here. I have all sorts of random stuff in my... Baha! Okay. There's Jerusalem. Aha! Now what you're going to notice is right there below my nose. See all them trees, right? To the north side of the Dome of the Rock. So, I know you can't see a whole lot, but there's a bunch of trees there. And, oh, can you just barely make it out? I think you can. Look at that. Okay. So, let's see here. Where am I looking at? Do you see the same picture? I do. Okay. So, there's four little arches. Four little arches. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to tell you what's up with that. And then a little dome in front of them. Let's see if I can get this close enough to you. If you can see the four arches in the dome. Probably not. Ah, well. Well, check it out. That was my best. I'm on the fly here. I don't plan these things out very well. So, where is the new temple going to be placed? I've watched some videos proposing different things. One of the most popular views held by the Jews and held by other people is that the temple belongs in the exact same location as the Dome of the Rock. And part of that is because there is this stone inside the Dome of the Rock, which is supposed to be the highest point on the mountain. And so that would be the highest point where the worship would take place. And then, therefore, that is where the Ark of the Covenant would have sat. There is the theory. That's held by many, many, many people. And it's probably to date still maybe the most popular view held by the Jews and others. And so in order to build this third temple, the Dome of the Rock would have to be gone. Option 2, something that's been kind of popularized in recent years, is the idea that the temple wasn't up there where the Dome of the Rock was. In fact, that's not the Temple Mount at all, and that the temple was actually down in the city of David. There was a video that got put out discussing this, and a book, and this and that. I struggle with that. There's the city of David, and we read at the end of 1 Kings how David goes out of the city of Jerusalem and up to the threshing floor, and that's where he purchases the land. Some people misquote that, saying that it's in the city of David, and it wasn't. And for those who aren't familiar, in this picture again, I know it's not a great picture. It's kind of hard for you guys. I don't know. Is it easier to see the black and white version? But that's the Temple Mount, right? And if you go down this way, there's the southern steps. You can kind of see the steps there. I'm sorry for the light. And if you go down here, my pinky is, that's where the city of David was. That was Salem, where Melchizedek ministered. That was the original city of Jerusalem. And then it expanded. And then the temple was built to the north of the city of David. And so when you think of city of David, that's the original Jerusalem, the oldest part. So some think the temple was there. But when I've heard the arguments, I disagreed. One thing they said is, well, you need water, and there's no water on the Temple Mount. And I've been there. There are huge, huge cisterns under the Temple Mount full of water to use. And there's all these other arguments. So that's another possible place for the temple to be located. And then there's the third and final place. And at the beginning of I was showing you the map, and I was saying, you see those little arches? There's a little dome below the arches. Again, I wish I could show you a picture. But on the north side, on the northwest corner of the Temple Mount, north of the Dome of the Rock, and then just a little bit off to the west, ever so slightly, so kind of on the back side of the Dome of the Rock, there's this little tiny dome. It's this little, little cover with some pillars holding it up. And according to the Arabs, the Muslims who control the place, it's either named the Dome of the Tablets or the Shrine of the Tablets. Dome of the Tablets or the Dome of the Spirit. Now, here's the thing about that location. It's less popular in many circles, and yet I've seen some great articles in biblical archaeology research they've put out about this place. There is exposed bedrock there, where the whole mountaintop is one big flat stones laid out, but here the bedrock sticks out. Now, it legitimately might be a foot, 2 feet, I don't know, a little bit lower than the rock that sticks out inside the Dome of the Rock, but this is all perfectly flat. It's a perfectly flat section of bedrock that's sticking out of the mountain, or bedrock or whatever rock. It's the rock of the mountain itself, right? And it got nicknamed the Shrine of the Tablets. Now remember, the Ark of the Covenant had the 10 Commandments, the tablets of stone, inside of it. What's also fascinating about this location, and yes, I'm going to try one more time to use my fun little map. Good. It does work. Item 16 on the map, which is located, I'm going to do it right there. I'll get it close for you. So item 16 on that map, that's what's called the Golden Gate. It's the gate that Jesus is supposed to return through when he comes back. He's going to march through the Golden Gate. What's very cool is people have disputed, well, where was the original Golden Gate? That's the modern Golden Gate. And it's actually true that since the Romans came, the Romans destroyed all the walls, and the walls have been built upon again by Crusaders and by Muslims and whatnot. So, the Muslim Empire comes in, and then the Crusaders. And so those walls have been kind of rebuilt over time. But what's cool is back in the late 60s, early 70s it was, there was a guy, and my mom went to school in Jerusalem, and there was a man from her school who actually was exploring around that area. He fell through the ground and ended up, it was a soggy day after some rain, fell through the ground into this pit. And in there, he took pictures from underneath the current gate, and there was the top of the original Golden Gate underneath. That locates the Golden Gate. From the Golden Gate, that was also the gate that the priests would enter into the temple. There on the east side of the mountain, facing the Mount of Olives. If you go through that Golden Gate and draw a straight line perpendicular with the walls, it lines straight up with that Dome of the Tablets. So, if the temple was supposed to be where the Dome of the Rock is, you'd walk in through the gate, turn a hard left, walk that way for a ways, and then turn a hard right to go into the temple. And that never made any sense to me. It just seems foolish. And yet, if the temple was located directly in front of that Golden Gate, when that Golden Gate opens, you would have a view opening doors, the doors of the temple, and you'd see straight up the steps that would go into the temple. And it'd be the most magnificent view. I can only imagine how cool. You'd see the altar, it'd all be lining up in one big straight shot. In fact, I have a location I've mapped out on Google Maps. I want to get a picture. You can get, well, the Abbey. This is where I need my mom. Dominican Abbey. There's a place on the hill where I've got a pretty good shot, but it's not straight on. So I've actually mapped out the road I want to stand on to take a picture so you can see Golden Gate, and then right behind is this Dome of the Tablets. All that said, why are we spending so much time talking about the temple? Well, because it's a big deal if you're trying to understand Revelation and a new temple. And you can go today. I've got pictures posted. If you go to my Facebook, I have an album, I think, that is my 2020 Israel trip. But you can see a bunch of my pictures. But right outside of the synagogue of Herva, the main synagogue in the old city, they've got the golden candlestick, the new one that's going to go in the temple that they're planning to build. And all these pieces are already prepared to be placed inside of a new temple. So the golden candlestick's there. You can see the one that they will place in the temple, pre-made, ready to rock and roll, made of gold, under a nice big glass bubble. But how did I get on such a big rabbit trail today? It's because of this, is that if the Dome of the Rock is not on top of the original temple, and if the temple could be rebuilt in, I believe, the correct location on the north side of the Dome of the Rock, with the Holy of Holies being right there over the Dome of the Tablets, 3 trips to Israel, and the third time I finally got to touch the rock. Usually there is again, this little rock that doesn't mean anything. It's not supposed to be special. They usually have guards guarding it so that people can't touch it. So anyway, I got to touch it last time. Anyway, so the guards came over after. If the temple gets rebuilt there, they could build the temple itself, right? The Holy of Holies, where the right above that little rock area, and then the holy place, which makes the temple itself. And there might be a temple courtyard where the priests and the people, the men, could gather. But the outer courts, the court of the women, the court of the Gentiles, those outermost courts, the Dome of the Rock would be smack dab in place in the outer courts. So while the temple itself could be erected with its main courts, where the court where the altar is and stuff like that, the inner courts, the court of the women, the court of the Gentiles, well, the Dome of the Rock would be in that area. So let's go back and read Revelation 11:2 again. It says, well, verse 1, it says, go and measure. Verse 2, but leave out the court which is outside the temple. Do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles, and they will tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months. So, what we see here is I think, a logical reference that if the Dome of the Rock remains, and if the new temple is built on that northern location, this would be a scriptural reference to the idea that that outer court area, it's defiled. I think that the Antichrist will come, and he will be promoting a one world religion, but it's not like any one in particular. I believe what it's going to be is a one world ecumenical religion where the Jews and the Arabs can all get along. And once again, if the Christians are taken out of the way, the fundamentalists, and if the Ezekiel 38 war takes place and the radical Muslims all band together to attack Israel and then are supernaturally destroyed by God, you've really actually seen radical Islam taken away also, leaving a very dominant, and we should understand that most Muslims don't practice what they preach, in the sense that, the Quran does talk about beheading Christians and beheading Jews. And if they don't convert, that's what the book teaches. And so a large portion of them, though, are moderate Muslims. They'll be left, ones who are willing to work together to have one world religion. And the Jews who are willing to have peace and, hey, you can keep your Dome of the Rock. We will have our temple. we're all living handy dandy and happy with one another. And I believe the two witnesses in chapter 11 here is the middle, the dead midpoint of the tribulation. And so that's where it's saying 42 months. There's going to be another 42 months left until they will no longer be defiling the temple area. And you have to think that's 3.5 years. You're going to see one in verse 3, it talks about 1,260 days, 3.5 years. And so the book of Revelation very clearly talks about this 7-year period. Specifically, the latter 3.5 years of the 7. And so, yeah, I won't even get to the witnesses today, but it's cool to know that these things are being prophesied about, and you can see how they can be playing out already. There was just in the last couple of weeks a pronouncement by Muslim higher ups that emphasize that the Temple Mount isn't really or should not be the focus of their religion, that Mecca and whatnot, those are the more holier sites. But that made the Jews happy because in theory that was kind of paving the way to talks. Because right now, if you're not familiar, the Muslims control the Temple Mount, right? They've got their police. When you go up on the Temple Mount, there will be no Jews there, almost never, because it's all owned by the Muslims. The Jews have the Wailing Wall down below, the Western Wall, the retaining wall of the old temple, but the Muslims own everything up there. And so to open up conversations about the Jews being able to be up there and to be able to build up there, that's a big deal. But it's also getting closer and closer. And while 50 years ago, people may have mocked at the idea. In fact, 100 years ago, it was unthinkable because Israel didn't even control the land. But little by little, Israel has been getting back her land. She's been taking over more of what was hers to begin with. And we're also seeing the paving of the way of the Temple Mount being accessible. And so, it's just a good reminder for all of you. And I'll close on this for all my prophecy buffs. This generation will not pass away. Well, I just want to remind what generation? Because in 48, they got the nation, they got Israel, right? Israel was reborn, but they didn't even own Jerusalem. They didn't even have the area of the old city. Now in 67, they got the old city, right? But they didn't get the Temple Mount. And still, the world did not recognize them they didn't recognize that they even had Jerusalem. They didn't recognize Jerusalem as their capital, not until Donald Trump, 2018, I think, right? And so little by little, it's hard to start that clock of this generation will not pass away, because it's like, do you really have it back when they don't have Jerusalem? Well, now they have Jerusalem. Well, they don't have the Temple Mount. And so it's just these little things, we see the signs and we are counting down, but there's a little history and information about the Temple Mount, the Golden Gate, and all that stuff plays together. And if you guys ever get a chance, I'll be back in Israel in 2023. I might try and sneak over earlier than that on my own just for fun. But 2023 we'll be going again, and typically we've got the cheapest prices. And I just say that because Dallas and I try really hard to get very affordable trips, usually $32, $33, $100. Who knows what could change in 2 years. But if you want to go to Israel, start saving. $150 a month. Yeah, that's a lot, but divide that by 30 days in a month, that's $5 a day. So if you stop drinking Starbucks, if you stop drinking your daily coffee today, you could go to Israel. Time to decide what's more important, right? So God bless you guys. Have an amazing day. And we'll get to the actual two witnesses tomorrow. I'm going to be at a conference the next couple days. It's going to be early enough. I don't think there'll be any conflict, but God bless you. Love you guys. Go look up pictures. Dome of the Tablets. It's pretty cool. I'll talk to you guys later.